Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths, but you have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now, you can also share a cart with Instacart's Family Carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or who should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
This is SpaceTime Series 27, Episode 141, for broadcast of the 22nd of November 2024. Coming up on SpaceTime, a black hole found to be consuming matter faster than its theoretical limit, solving another one of the many mysteries of the planet Uranus, and a new spacecraft designed to track how Earth's surface moves. All that and more coming up on SpaceTime.
Welcome to Space Time with Stuart Gary.
Astronomers have discovered a supermassive black hole in the early universe that's consuming matter more than 40 times faster than its theoretical limit. The discovery of this black hole, apparently feasting on material at an extreme rate just 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang, is providing scientists with valuable new insights into the mechanisms of rapidly growing black holes in the early universe. Supermassive black holes exist at the centers of most, if not all, galaxies, and modern telescopes are continuing to find them at surprisingly early times in the universe's evolution. But until now, it's been really difficult to understand how these black holes have been able to grow so big so quickly. The black hole, catalogued as LID 568, was discovered using the Webb Space Telescope, which was observing a sample of galaxies from the Chandra X-ray Observatory's Cosmos Legacy Survey. This population of galaxies are very bright in X-rays, but are invisible in optical and near-infrared. But Webb's unique infrared sensitivity allowed the telescope to detect these faint counterpart emissions. LID 568 stood out within the sample for its intense X-ray emissions, but its exact position couldn't be determined from the X-ray observations alone, and that raised concerns about properly centering the target within Webb's field of view. So, rather than using traditional slit spectroscopy, scientists decided to use the integral field spectrograph on Webb's near-infrared spectrometer. This instrument can get a spectrum from each pixel in its field of view, rather than being limited to just a narrow slice. It allowed the authors to get a full view of their target and its surrounding region, leading to the unexpected discovery of powerful outflows of gas around the central black hole. The speed and size of these outflows led scientists to infer that a substantial fraction of the mass of LID 568 may have occurred in a single episode of rapid accretion. In a stunning discovery, they found that LID 568 appears to be feeding on matter at a rate more than 40 times its Eddington limit. Now, the Eddington limit relates to the maximum luminosity that a black hole can achieve, as well as how fast it can absorb matter, such that its inward gravitational force and outward photon pressure generated from the heat of the compressed inward falling material remains in balance. It's possible that the powerful outflows observed in LID 568 may be acting as a sort of release valve for the excess energy generated by the extreme accretion, preventing the system from becoming too unstable. The study's lead author, Haewon Soo from the National Science Foundation's National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory, says these serendipitous results add a new dimension to science's understanding of the system and open up exciting new avenues for future investigation. The findings, reported in the journal Nature, show how this extreme case demonstrates that a fast-feeding mechanism above the Eddington limit is one of the possible explanations for why we see so many large supermassive black holes so early in the history of the universe. It means the results are providing new insights into the formation of supermassive black holes from smaller black hole seeds, which current theories suggest arise either from the death of the universe's first stars or from the direct collapse of giant gas clouds. Until now, these theories lacked any observational confirmation. Sue says the discovery of a super Eddington accreting black hole suggests that a significant proportion of the mass growth of the black hole can occur during a single episode of rapid feeding, regardless of how the black hole originated. This is SpaceTime. Still to come, solving one of the many mysteries of the planet Uranus, and a new spacecraft to launch next year to track how the Earth's surface moves. All that and more still to come on SpaceTime. Astronomers have discovered that an unusual space weather event literally squeezed the planet Uranus's magnetic field, dramatically compressing its magnetosphere just before NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft flew past it in 1986. The new findings, which were revealed while astronomers were mining 38-year-old data from Voyager 2, helps explain the ice giant's weird magnetic field at the time of the flyby. Voyager 2 has provided scientists with their first and so far only close glimpse of this strange, sideways rotating outer planet. Alongside the discovery of new moons and rings, baffling new mysteries about Uranus confronted the Voyager scientists. They discovered the energized particles around the planet defied their understanding of how magnetic fields work to trap particle radiation. And that earned Uranus a reputation as an outlier in our solar system. The study's lead author, Jamie Jasinski from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, says that if Voyager 2 had arrived just a few days earlier, it would have observed a completely different magnetosphere around Uranus. Instead, the spacecraft saw Uranus in conditions that actually only occur about 4% of the time. Magnetospheres serve as protective bubbles around planets with magnetic cores and magnetic fields, shielding them from the ionized gas or plasma that streams out from the sun and the solar wind. Learning more about how these magnetospheres work is important, both for understanding our own planet as well as those in seldom visited corners of our solar system and beyond. That's why scientists were eager to study Uranus's magnetic field, and what they saw in the Voyager 2 data back in 1986 flummoxed them so badly. Inside Uranus's magnetosphere were electron radiation belts with an intensity second only to Jupiter's notoriously brittle radiation belts. Problem is, there was no apparent source of energized particles to feed those active belts. In fact, the rest of Uranus's magnetic field was almost devoid of plasma. The missing plasma also puzzled scientists because they knew that the 5 major Uranian moons in the magnetic bubble should have produced water ions as icy moons around other planets do. They therefore concluded that the moons must be inert with no ongoing activity. So, why was no plasma observed, and what was happening to beef up the radiation belts? The new data analysis, reported in the journal Nature Astronomy, points to the solar wind. When plasma from the sun pounded and compressed the magnetosphere, it likely drove plasma out of the system. And the solar wind would also have briefly intensified the dynamics of the magnetosphere, which would have fed the belts by ejecting electrons into them. And the findings could be good news for those 5 major moons of Uranus, some of which might be geologically active. With an explanation for the temporarily missing plasma, researchers say it's plausible that the moons actually may have been spewing ions into the surrounding bubble all along. Planetary scientists are focusing on bolstering their knowledge of the mysterious Uranus system, which is being prioritized as a target for a future NASA mission. As for the Voyager 2 spacecraft, well, it's still operational, currently flying through unexplored interstellar space, some 21 billion kilometers from Earth. This is SpaceTime. Still to come, scientists are developing a new satellite designed to measure ground movement on the Earth's surface, and later in the science report, the World Meteorological Organization says 2024 is on track to become the hottest year on record. All that and more still to come on SpaceTime.
Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths, but you have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now, you can also share a cart with Instacart's family carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or who should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Scientists are developing a new satellite designed to measure ground movement on the Earth's surface. The joint NASA Indian Space Research Organization Synthetic Aperture Radar, or NISA, mission will measure the motion of nearly all of the planet's land and ice-covered surfaces twice every 12 days. The joint US-Indian satellite will track the Earth's changing surface, improving science's understanding of phenomena like earthquakes, volcanoes, and landslides. Now, other satellites have monitored ground movement before, but the pace of NISA's data collection will give researchers a more fuller picture of how the Earth's surface changes over time. The probe will also help people prepare for and recover from natural and human-caused disasters. NISA applications lead Kathleen Jones from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, says this kind of regular observation will allow scientists to look at how the Earth's surface moves across nearly the entire planet, providing a more complete picture both horizontally and vertically. Targeted for launch from India early next year, the mission will be able to detect surface motions down to centimetres and map changes in vegetation. It uses a pair of radar instruments that operate at long wavelengths, an L-band system built by JPL and an S-band system built by ISRO. And NISA will be the first satellite to carry both. Each instrument can collect measurements day and night, and they can see through clouds that would normally obstruct the view of optical instruments. The L-band instrument will also be able to penetrate dense vegetation to measure ground motion. This capability will be especially useful in areas surrounding volcanoes or fault lines that are often obscured by vegetation. This report from NASA TV.
Infrastructure problems are common around the world. NISAR is a new Earth-observing mission to image all of the land across the globe. This is a partnership between NASA and the Indian Space Research Organization. And the thing that's really cool about this instrument is that you can do interferometry, looking at how the surface is moving, so that you can tell where something might be going wrong. Is this getting close to failure? For example, if a landslide is slipping, and then put your ground attention on that point.
In 2015, the airport had a major slope failure. That created a huge interruption to their operations and damaged their safety overrun area. And then we designed the replacement wall at the end of the runway. We have instrumentation in the wall. We'll be using NISAR to monitor the wall deformations and the surrounding area in the future.
So when we think about the application of NISAR to a project like this, how does that feed into the overall mitigation?
So I think the goal is to be able to use NISAR data as that early warning system. It'll give us an alert that something is starting to move, hopefully within plenty of time to take action to assess the problem and take remediation before it becomes a problem.
This instrument is going to give you an idea of what's happening over the whole system. So in the context of dams or levees, you can look at whether the slope of the dam is somehow shifting.
We're interested in NISAR data because it'll provide us a good amount of information on a variety of our projects. We have over 700 dams in our inventory. We also have over 2,000 miles of levee. The Corps' responsibility is to make sure that it's functional and keeping people safe downstream should a flood event occur. The main purpose of our projects is for water supply, hydropower, and flood control. It's really difficult to monitor every point on every project, but NISAR will provide us good coverage of a lot of projects that are difficult to get to in remote areas that are very large. And we can use that to supplement our existing monitoring programs to see are there any areas that we need to look at more closely, add additional instrumentation, basically as a screening level tool to see are there areas that we should be looking at that we're not already.
This is like the culmination of a dream to be able to have this instrument operating and providing this kind of data for everywhere.
And in that report from NASA TV, we heard from Alan Cadden, Principal with Schnabel Engineering, Ben Webster, who's also with Schnabel Engineering, and Georgette Helapis, Principal Geotechnical Engineer with the US Army Corps of Engineers. This is Space Time.
Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths, but you have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now you can also share a cart with Instacart's family carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or who should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
And time now to take another brief look at some of the other stories making news in science this week with the Science Report. The World Meteorological Organization says 2024 is now on track to be the hottest year on record. The findings, released at the COP29 Climate Change Conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, follow an extended streak of exceptionally high monthly global average temperatures. The authors say the latest WMO State of the Climate 24 update once again puts the world on red alert at the sheer pace of climate change in a single generation. They say the increase in global temperatures is being caused by ever-increasing greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere. The 10 years from 2015 to 2024 will be the warmest decade on record. The loss of ice from glaciers, sea level rise and ocean heating are accelerating, and extreme weather is wreaking havoc on communities and economies across the world. The World Meteorological Organization says China remains the world's biggest carbon dioxide polluter, producing over a third of the world's total output. That amounts to over 10.2 million tons annually. A new study has shown that ultra-processed foods are now dominating diets globally. The findings presented to the International Congress on Obesity suggest that ultra-processed foods are increasing their share of diets of people worldwide, and that's despite the known risks they come with. The study's authors say processed foods are already making up almost half of Australian diets. Ultra-processed foods have been linked to at least 25 chronic diseases, and the authors are now recommending that ultra-processed foods should be regulated in the same way as tobacco products. A new study has shown that so-called toy dog types, bred for companionship, have bigger brains relative to their body size, while working dogs tend to have smaller brains. Researchers measured the volumes inside some 1,700 skulls in 170 different dog breeds as an indicator of brain size. They found that they correlated to several behavioural traits. Dog breeds that were more fearful, aggressive and attention-seeking tended to have the largest brains compared to their body size, while highly trainable breeds tended to have smaller brains relative to body size. The findings, reported in the journal Biological Letters, shows how mammals' brain sizes are changeable with domestication and artificial selection. Back in 1996, NASA carried out a fascinating experiment to generate electricity from the ionosphere using a small satellite tethered to a space shuttle. The experiment aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia during mission STS-75 saw the deployment of the satellite using a conductive tether attached to the shuttle. The tether satellite system circled the Earth at an altitude of 296 kilometres, placing the tether system within the rarefied, electrically charged layer of the ionosphere. Now, the electric conductor of the tether was a copper braid wound around a Nomex string. It was all encased in Teflon insulation with an outer cover of Kevlar inside a nylon sheath. Scientists hoped to deploy the tether out to a distance of 20.7 kilometres. Over 5 hours, some 19 kilometres of tether was reeled out. But then, all of a sudden, the tether snapped, producing numerous pieces of floating debris through plasma discharge, as well as the rupture of the tether itself. The culprit turned out to be the innermost core, which was made of a porous metal which, during its manufacture, trapped bubbles of air at atmospheric pressure. Later vacuum chamber experiments suggested that the unwinding of the reel uncovered pinholes within the insulation. Now, that in itself would not have caused a major problem, because the ionosphere around the tether, under normal circumstances, would have been too rarefied to divert much of the current. However, the air trapped within the insulation changed that. As the air bubbled out of the pinholes, the high 3,500 volts of the nearby tether converted it into a relatively dense plasma, making it a much better conductor of electricity. And this plasma diverted to the metal of the shuttle and from there to the ionospheric return circuit. That current was enough to melt the cable. Well, that's the science. However, UFO fans have come up with a very different takeaway message. And of course, it involves alien life. But Tim Mindham from Australian Skeptics says astronauts, including one involved in the experiment, say they've never seen any evidence of alien life.
So this satellite launched, and the tether, the rope that's connecting it to like an umbilical cord, connecting it to the space shuttle, apparently broke, snapped, and this astronaut who was actually on that space shuttle, his name was Tom Jones.
It's not unusual.
That's not unusual. He said, no, all these things that were around it, everyone was saying it's all UFOs interested in the satellite, etc., little spots and dots and blobs. He was saying that this readiness to suggest a UFO, alien, extraterrestrial explanation for things is pretty common, and the astronauts themselves get confronted with these views quite readily. And he says, but as far as he knows, no astronauts have actually seen any evidence of alien life. And he's been up 4 times, I think, in the space shuttle. There is one astronaut who's cited a lot by the UFO community, and that's Edgar Mitchell, who was the 6th man to walk on the moon. And he has said that he believes in alien life and that he's seen evidence of it, and UFOs and all sorts of things. And he's been going around for years, although he's passed away now. I saw him once, way back when, in the dim, dark, distant ages, and I was quite disappointed with him because he obviously comes from a bit of a technical background, but he was applying totally non-technical reasons to his belief. But anyway, he's been cited many times. He's the hero a bit of the UFO community. He's the astronaut, the one who should know. But according to Tom Jones, every other astronaut, no other astronaut has actually seen any evidence of this sort of thing. And anything they've seen, which is strange, they can explain, right? And that's the big thing, is that an unidentified flying object is unidentified until someone identifies it. So, an interesting story. He was actually interviewed for the Smithsonian and put out the story, astronauts have not seen any evidence of alien life, and he used the tether incident to actually give an example of how people misinterpreted a quite normal, explicable event. People applied alien solutions to it, alien explanations for it.
Looking at what's happened to this planet over the last few centuries, any self-respecting alien life form flying past would immediately wind up the windows and lock the doors and keep on going.
Yeah.
They wouldn't hang around here.
No, it's a bad neighbourhood.
That's Tim Mindham from Australian Skeptics. That's the show for now. SpaceTime is available every Monday, Wednesday and Friday through Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Acast, Amazon Music, Bytes.com, SoundCloud, YouTube, your favourite podcast download provider, and from spacetimewithstuartgary.com. SpaceTime's also broadcast through the National Science Foundation on Science Zone Radio and on both iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio. And you can help to support our show by visiting the SpaceTime store for a range of promotional merchandising goodies. Or by becoming a SpaceTime patron, which gives you access to triple episode commercial-free versions of the show, as well as lots of bonus audio content which doesn't go to air, access to our exclusive Facebook group, and other rewards. Just go to spacetimewithstuartgary.com for full details.
You've been listening to SpaceTime with Stuart Gary. This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.
Professionals spend nearly half the workweek on written communication, so focus is important. With Grammarly as your AI writing partner, focus and quickly get through work with relevant real-time suggestions. And it works across 500,000 apps and websites, so you can sound more confident and persuasive wherever you write. 93% of professionals report that Grammarly helps them get more work done. Download Grammarly for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's Grammarly.com/podcast.